Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit. Today we are joined by Tricia Halstead, who is a trial lawyer, a former LA Deputy District Attorney, and the founder of Lawyer Up Legal Counsel. Tricia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Can we start off? Can you just tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, a little bit about the people you help, and a little bit about Lawyer Up Legal Counsel?
Absolutely. So as Adrian stated, I started as a deputy district attorney in Los Angeles County. Prior to that, I actually worked at a firm doing city prosecution and city attorney work. So litigation from the beginning. I started my career in litigation. I've continued my career in litigation. I did leave the DA's office last February. I entered the world of personal injury law. Loved it, loved the ability to help people. And after a few months kind of learning the ropes, I realized that I could do a lot of work, a lot of help a lot of people if I went out on my own. And I used all of the aspects of my background, my training, all the experience I have to help people. So I founded Lawyer Up Legal Counsel under the biggest premise of everyone should have the right to an attorney who's going to fight like hell for them. And money should not be a barrier to that. So I offer personal injury cases are on a contingency. They pay me nothing up front. They don't pay a retainer. They don't pay a dollar amount, an hourly amount. I get paid at the end. And with my criminal defense cases, every case gets a quote on a flat fee, a flat rate, no hourly charges, no surprise fees. And I also offer my clients payment plans because I don't want a client going into debt just to get somebody advocating for their rights. I've also branched off to doing restraining orders and cease and desist letters. And I've been offering those to men and women who don't have other options. They have been getting harassed or abused or whatever that situation may be. And unfortunately, they haven't been able to afford a family law attorney, the retainer for that, or whatever that process may be. And so they find me and I'm able to do that at a more affordable rate for them and offer them those protections that they haven't been able to find elsewhere.
Wow. And I mean, that's a pretty unique offer, this payment structure and the idea that you can work out a payment plan. Was there a moment prior to you founding Lawyer Up Legal Counsel where you saw was there a moment where you realized the need for such an option for people?
Yes. And I will say I probably saw that happen hundreds of times in my almost 10 years of experience. Every day of my career was spent in a courtroom. So even if it wasn't something I was specifically working on or affected by, I observed it in other situations. But there was a large instance that kind of led to me leaving the DA's office. And there was a trial that I was assigned as a trial deputy. I was assigned to the Compton courthouse. And as I prepared for this trial, I did not believe that we had the right person. And this person was facing 19 years in state prison, and he was represented by a public defender. And the public defender came to me and said, "It's not my guy." And I said, "Okay, let's talk. Why?" Right? Like, if you're going to come and say that, give me reasons, and I'm happy to explore it. And all she said to me was, "He's wearing different clothes. He was arrested in different clothes." And for those that are not familiar with the criminal justice system, that's not rare, right? Normally, when somebody does some sort of crime, they immediately try to destroy the evidence. They try to change their clothes, hide their appearance, something like that. So I said to her, "This is not compelling. Please give me more." And she said, "Well, fine. If you don't want to listen, then go ahead and try the case." And I was really frustrated by that.
Right.
Because I take innocence very, very strongly. And so I sat down, regardless of getting any help from this man's attorney, and I just dived into this case. And I got to a point where I realized we don't have the right person in custody. And this person has been in custody for 8 months. And I want to be very clear that I think public defenders are incredible. They are brilliant. They have more trial experience than any private defense attorney who has not spent time in a public office like that. But they are swamped and they have hundreds of cases assigned to them. And unfortunately, they don't have the time and the resources that some of these defendants deserve and need. And so, sorry, I'm rambling, but long story short, I determined it was not this man. I went
Right.
to supervisors, I presented my evidence, and I said, here are the reasons. And I gave criminal history background, I gave home ownership, I gave, a ton of reasons why. I compared video evidence next to body camera footage. I printed all that out, and I was told I had to do the trial.
Mm.
And never in my almost 10 years of working in a prosecutorial assignment had I been told that I could not trust my own judgment and that I had to
Right.
move forward. And I fought it. I fought with that supervisor. I fought with the supervisor above her. And ultimately, I was told, your victim said it's that guy. It's that guy. And that was a Tuesday. And on the following Monday, I quit because
Wow.
it was not going to be the reason that an innocent man stayed in jail. And it was a situation where I really had to do some soul searching because frankly, I could have won that trial. Like if I was forced to do that trial, I know my skills, I know my persuasiveness to a jury. I could have won and I had no business winning. And
Right.
so in that moment, I realized I want to provide defense for righteous defendants.
Mm.
Somebody who cannot afford a private attorney, but desperately needs somebody to just take a better look at their case. And so I actually ran into that public defender a few weeks ago, and I said to her, if you still have any contact with that client, please let him know he changed my life because I've taken an entire different career path based on how uncomfortable that situation made me feel.
Right. I
So
mean, that's incredible. I mean, this sort of fierce advocacy for innocence and for righteousness, where do you think that comes from? Is that just something that's innate to you as a person? Is that just part of your character? Is it something you cultivated?
I think so. I have always deeply cared about inclusion, about equality, about equal access. I am a white presenting female. I have many privileges that I am so incredibly grateful for, but I also recognize the privileges that I've been given. And some of those privileges had nothing to do with me as a person and only to do with my background and the way that I was raised and the family unit that I grew up in. And so from a young age, I've been able to really recognize that privilege and use that privilege to try to make change. Um, there was a defining moment for me. I think I was about 15. I went to a leadership conference specifically on law and advocacy, and I watched a movie there, a documentary, and essentially in this documentary, this man plotted a murder, plotted evidence, and ultimately was killed by the death penalty. And after he had been executed, was the video of him staging everything and showing that he didn't do it.
Mm.
And that movie, even at such a young age, really, really stuck with me because it made me realize that, yes, evidence is absolutely crucial to prove any sort of case, any sort of conviction, but it also really, really needs to be analyzed to make sure that that burden beyond a reasonable doubt is being proven and that it's being done in a just way.
Right.
And so at that point, I decided I wanted to be a DA. I wanted to be a prosecutor because I felt like I could have the largest impact on society on that side of it rather than on the defense side of it. And I will tell you, for 8 years, that was true. I dismissed cases often. I
Right.
went to supervisors repeatedly, and I would say, hey, look, I have this case. Here's the problem, da da da. And every other time in my career, my supervisors said one of two things. You're right, go dismiss. Or, let me take a look at this, but you are ethically not on board, so I'll reassign it if I disagree with you. And
Right.
I really respected that. I was never forced into a situation where I was prosecuting something that I didn't believe in until
Right.
last February. But I do feel like I made a big difference. I trained officers. I spoke with officers. When I saw body camera footage and there was something unconstitutional, I dismissed the case and I would sit the officers down and say, hey, not your fault, but let's talk about how this could be done better. And
Right.
I cultivated so many friendships with police officers that way as well, that they still reach out to me and they'll say, hey, I know you're on the other side, but can I pick your brain for a minute? Is
Right.
XYZ okay? And now uniquely I can tell them, well, you can do that, but this is how I'll attack that in court. So do it
Right.
the right way. And so that was a long-winded way to answer your question of I have just always really had a strong belief and love of the idea of justice. And I don't think our system is perfect, but I do feel like being a part of the justice system, whether it was on one case or 8,000, I feel confident that I made a difference in seeking that justice, even as a prosecutor.
Well, you mentioned it earlier and you just mentioned it again. I mean, you walked away from a whole career because something didn't sit right with you ethically. Can you speak a little bit about the role that ethics plays in your practice and why that's so important?
Absolutely. And I tell this story and it sounds easy, right? Oh, Tricia was put in a position, she walked away, cool, she has her own firm. It wasn't easy. I I had zero hesitation in quitting the DA's office. But the day after I quit, I was hit with almost an identity crisis. I mean, this was the career I wanted since I was 15. I worked my butt off to get there. I loved every minute of it. And then in a snap of the fingers, I changed my mind. I left and I
Right.
will never regret that decision. But I then was faced with this like, holy cow, who am I? What am I doing next? And it was not an emotionally easy process to go
Right.
through. But I'm so grateful that I did because it really allowed me to carve out those essential things that are important to me in my firm. And integrity is a huge, huge aspect of that. Um, Transparency is a huge aspect of that. I don't make promises to clients. I am very, very upfront with them. I let them know the evidence as I've seen it. And then I let them know, hey, here's what I can do for you. And if that's not what you want, then maybe I'm not the best defense attorney for you. If you want somebody who's going to be scummy, who's going to hide evidence, who's going to lie to a jury, those guys are out there. But unfortunately, that's not me.
Right.
And I may lose some business opportunities because of that. But I'm okay with that because that is so important to who I am, how I want my business run, and the type of people that I want to hire and represent.
Absolutely. And when people come to you with a matter, when they come to you facing some kind of a legal challenge, I mean, is your strategy and approach, is it sort of a one size fits all, or is it something that you kind of highly custom tailor to the individual and their case?
Absolutely. Highly custom tailored to the individual. I have, and I'm just going to use this as an example, I have multiple DUI clients. Every single case is being treated differently. Every single case, no matter what the BAC level is, no matter what the report says, I am watching every minute of body cam in every
Right.
single one of those. Because now, as a defense attorney, I get to hold law enforcement to that standard, right? That constitutionality. When I see a report that is terribly written, it has typos, it has the wrong date, it has the wrong name, I use that in a DMV hearing to argue that my client's license shouldn't be suspended because they don't have the proper reasonable suspicion or probable cause statement because something like the date being written on the wrong date
Right.
or arrest being listed on the wrong date. Um, so every single client gets a full assessment and they also get what's really important to me is that I hear what their goals are. So I have a few clients who say, I want to take responsibility. I made a dumb decision. I shouldn't have gone behind the wheel. I just really don't want to go to jail. And I say, okay, that's our goal, right? We're not as concerned about fines. We're okay doing community service, but you don't want to go to jail because you have children. Totally fine. That's what we're going to focus on. Or, hey, I'm okay pleading, but I can't lose my license because I'm responsible for driving my minor children to school every day. Cool. Got it. That's our focus. So every case that comes to me, every client that calls in gets to talk to me directly. They also have a case manager who's fantastic, but I want to give them that personal attention. And together we kind of go over what the goals are, what the evidence shows, weaknesses, strengths. And I tell people, I have a restraining order case, and I told her, we are not likely to succeed on this one or this one, but we can on this one. How do you feel about that? And ultimately just giving them that voice, that the platform to really just talk about it, right? A lot of people that have been accused of a crime, especially for the first time, they are mortified. They are embarrassed.
Right.
They don't want to talk to their family. They don't want to talk to their friend. And each of my clients know that they can always talk to me. And so that's something that's been very, very important in giving every client that unique experience with me.
That's incredible. And I'm curious, because you handle both the criminal defense side and the personal injury side. Are there any similarities or differences? Are they more alike? Are they more different? What similarities and differences exist between those two worlds?
That's a great question. And I will say my initial interest in personal injury was based on my role as a DA and the frustration I felt in not being able to assist victims monetarily. I would have victims that would have their car stolen and then crashed, right? And that victim might be 19 years old who just saved up money to buy the first car they've ever received. And now the judge has ordered a defendant to pay him $25 a month for, a $20,000 car. And I saw how devastating that was to these victims. And unfortunately, as a DA, there was nothing further that I could do except obtain that restitution order.
Right.
I can't force the defendant to pay. I can't make money appear out of thin air. But as a personal injury attorney, I can help those type of people. Someone who has been in a car accident, someone who has been hurt because of negligent property, and I'm able to fight for them to get that compensation that they deserve. Now, while it is different from defense work because arguably it's a separate side, the similarity is that in both situations, my clients are coming to me in a moment of despair, a moment of confusion, and they need somebody to guide them and to help them. And that's what I can do regardless of what the legal issue is.
Is there something maybe that you think the general public sort of has wrong about prosecutors that's sort of a big misconception that people hold?
Yes. And I will say it's going to sound a little odd answering that question compared to the experience that I started with when we first
Sure.
started talking. But I will say that there is absolutely no quota. There is no expectation of a guilty verdict. There is no tracking of your win record or your win percentages. As a DA, nobody cared if the outcome was guilty or not guilty. What we cared is, or what my supervisors cared about, was if I effectively presented the evidence to the jury. And I did so, ethically, morally, and legally. Now, if a jury decided that somebody was not guilty, that's the jury's decision. That is why our justice system exists. Even if they got it wrong, as a prosecutor, once a jury votes for not guilty, there is no refiling the case. Double jeopardy attaches. We don't get another bite at the apple. And so there was no expectation of wins versus losses, of conviction rate versus not. I've had a lot of people ask me that question. What was your conviction rate? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I can tell you I never lost a felony trial, but I lost a number of misdemeanor trials as a DA, and no one cared. So I
Right.
would say that is the biggest misconception, that prosecutors are just in it to get a guilty. I had plenty of times where defense attorneys would come to me and say, hey, can you take a deeper look at this? Or I don't think this because of this. And every single time I analyzed that evidence, I made a decision, I spoke to them about it, And sometimes that was, hey, I'm not calling this witness. You were right. They're not credible. Or, hey, I reviewed 14 hours of surveillance footage, and unfortunately, I just don't agree with your client. So this is going to be a trial.
Right.
But, I think there is a misconception that the big bad DA is just there to put people in jail and get those conviction records. And that's not it at all.
Right.
90% of my job was helping people. And the 10% of that was trials, right? But there was always a victim on the other end of it that we were trying to help.
You have handled over 8,000 courtroom matters. That number is absolutely insane. In that period of time, you have gone up against some of the toughest attorneys. Now, this question may be pulling back the curtain too much, but is there any kind of strategy or secret weapon that you bring in when you're handling really high stakes cases?
So you're going to laugh because my strategy, my secret weapon is 100% me and personality. And I'll give you a quick example. I have a client who had about 4 misdemeanor cases that were in warrant status. She had not gone to court in over 3 years. And when she hired me, she was terrified. She was embarrassed, but she was very clear. Tricia, I can't go to jail. I cannot lose my job. I have a dog. There's nobody that could take care of my dog. And she was terrified. And so I assured her that wouldn't be an issue. I can't guarantee it, but I did say if it happens, I have a bail bonds on call, we're good. And we get to court and I walk into the courtroom with her. And this was a courtroom I hadn't been in for about 6 months because I had left the office. And I had her take a seat and I said, I'm going to go check in. And I walked up and the bailiff in the courtroom, that's the deputy, immediately looked up and goes, Miss Halstead, what are you doing here? And jumps up and gives me a hug. And as she does that, the judicial assistant sees me and is like, oh my gosh. And she comes down and she gives me a hug. And I'm chit-chatting, giving them my business card. They're all excited for me. And then the judge comes out and immediately goes, Miss Halstead, it's so good to see you. What are you doing? Update me on your life. And now, without calling a single case, the judge is talking to me for about 10 minutes. So I wrap it up. I sit down next to my client. She turns to me and she goes, everybody loves you. I'm not going to jail, am I? But it was true. And I don't want this to come across like special favors or special friendships. But this is something that I teach every single law clerk, every single intern, and every single staff that has ever worked for me in any capacity. Every single person in that courtroom is important. Whether they're the cleaning crew, right? I know cleaning crews by name in multiple courthouses. I know the bailiffs by name. I know the judicial assistants by name. And because of that, they know when they can trust me. And they know that I'm not going to do dirty by them. And so, in that situation, not only did I know all them, but then the prosecutor walked in. It was a city prosecutor. And he said to me, aren't you a DA? And I laughed and I gave him my card and, he joked and said, hey, I'm excited to see what you do. Like, glad you're here. Here's your discovery, whatever, just a nice, like pleasant conversation. But when I was a DA, I could name a number of defense attorneys who I considered shady, defense attorneys who I knew I had to be careful with, who I couldn't say something on the fly because it would be used against me. And those are the defense attorneys that I don't want to say didn't get as much attention, but I didn't believe them as strongly.
Right.
When one of my public defenders came to me and said, hey, I don't think it's my guy, I spent 15 hours analyzing that. When a private defense attorney has come to me as a DA on 10 different cases and every single time tells me it's not my guy, now you're just crying wolf. And so for me, I think my integrity that I have really focused on for my entire career has really benefited me on this side as well. I read a quote, and I can't agree with this more than I already do. And it said, don't hire an attorney that knows the law, hire an attorney that knows the judge. And that really spoke to me because that's me. And I have been, like you said, I have handled over 8,000 courtroom matters in my career. which that number shocked me. Like I was like, holy cow. But that means I've been in front of a judge on 8,000 different cases, and I've been in front of probably over 100 different judges. And I've been in front of those judges multiple times. And I've learned the things that they like. I've learned the things that they don't like. I've learned that there are legal issues that they stand strongly on. And so I'm not going to waste my time for that client on something. But I know this judge likes alternative resolutions, and so my secret weapon is truly just me. I take the time to learn about my clients. I take the time to learn about the attorneys. Take the time to learn about the judges and their entire courtroom staff. And I think that gives me the biggest edge of all.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm curious, is there some common mistakes that you see either injured people or people who have been accused of something? Is there a common mistake that you see people make prior to hiring an attorney?
Absolutely. And it is the same, no matter the type of law. And it's something we all know, but it deserves to be said. Stop talking. Stay silent. And that is how I actually came to my firm name. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to name a firm. I did not want to be the law offices of Tricia Halstead. I did not want to be TH Law. I wanted something that really represented my belief, my sense of justice, which is everyone should have the right to have representation. And so one of the things that I really push in my advertising and in my conversations is stop talking, lawyer up, let me handle it for you. If you are in an accident, do not talk to the insurance company. They are not your friend.
Right.
Everything that you say, if they say, how are you feeling? You're like, well, I'm okay, just scared. They've now labeled you as no injury, and they've now made your case worth $1,500.
Right.
I will do that call for you. You don't even have to open the insurance claim. I will call the adjusters. I will open that claim. I will give them as much information as they need to move forward without locking us into anything. Because the reality is we have no idea what type of injury someone has immediately after a car accident.
Right.
They could have a meniscus tear that they had no idea that they had because when their foot was on that brake pedal, their knee took all of the impact. I have clients that have concussions that they had no idea why. By the time they called me, it was, I haven't been able to leave my bed in 3 days. I have a massive headache. And my response is, go to the ER now.
Yeah.
That could be a concussion, but that could be a brain bleed. So the number one thing is stay silent. If you are arrested, there's nothing that you can say that can help you. I promise you that. I have watched thousands, I will say thousands of interviews with defendants. Not one time has what they said helped them. Not once. In fact, everything they say is always used against them.
Right.
And the same with the insurance. Nothing you say can help you. Hire an attorney, call an attorney, let them know you have an attorney. I give all of my clients a stack of cards, and I say, I don't care if you throw them away, but it's in your best interest to put one in your car, one in your wallet, one in your back pocket, one in your purse, one in whatever you have. Because if you're in a situation, especially right now with the climate of our federal office presidency, I want people to have that, Pokemon card, right? Like your card. I have an attorney. That is a constitutional right. Everybody is entitled to representation and the right to stay silent. And the easiest way to invoke that is to just show proof that you have an attorney.
Yeah.
And so, I've told clients before, like, look, if you're in a situation where you pull my card and then you later can't hire me, I don't care. As long as pulling that card in that moment protected yourself, then I've succeeded, right? I don't need you to actually hire me. I want to help them. So I forgot what the question was, but I think
I was going to say the big takeaway is shut up and lawyer up.
Shut up and lawyer up. Like, I promise you, nothing you do can help your case. And let me just say, I will be honest. I tell every car accident person that calls in to me, I assess their injuries, I assess their property damage, and then I tell them, you can absolutely do this on your own. but let me tell you why I can help you and make it that much better. And
Right.
number one thing is that your words don't get twisted. And the number two thing is that as an individual, you have no threat of litigation. So an insurance company has no reason to pay you what you deserve. You're
Mm.
not scary. As soon as you have a law firm attached to your injury, they are worried about ending up in court. They are worried about spending $300,000 taking depositions, getting experts, reviewing evidence, hiring a law firm for the defense. They know that as soon as a lawsuit is filed, what could have been resolved as $30,000, $50,000 is now highly in the six figures.
Right.
Just by you, an accident victim, having an attorney attached to you, it completely changes the game. It changes where they start with the negotiations. It changes what coverages they admit that you have or that the other driver has. And it forces them to remain ethical, to have integrity, and to view claims for what they're worth instead of
Right.
just trying to get rid of somebody as quickly as they could.
Absolutely. Well, Tricia, this has been an absolutely awesome conversation. It has been great speaking with you. If anybody out there listening could use your help in either a criminal defense or a personal injury matter, where can the people find you?
So you can go to lawyerupligalcounsel.com. My email is Tricia, Tricia, at lawyerupligalcounsel.com. You can find us on Instagram, Lawyer Up Legal Counsel, or attorney_Tricia. That's mine. You can reach out by phone, which is 949-662-3343. Any way that you can get in contact with us is great. We would love to hear from you. We would love to hear what you're going through. And every consultation is free, no matter if it's a restraining order, a criminal defense, or a personal injury case. And that consultation is going to be an hour. It's not going to be a 5-minute talk. We're going to go through everything. And at the end of that call, I will tell you, yes, I can help you, and these are the ways, or you can do this yourself and let me show you how. Either way, I want people to be empowered. I want people to understand the justice system. And even if that means that they're not paying me, then I'm okay with that as well.
Well, Tricia, thank you so much. This has been an absolutely awesome conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I've loved every minute of it.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Tricia, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.